people always say repeal and replace with what? So, yes, I think this is a long-term strategy, but the first step is getting rid of Obamacare, because we can't even have discussions about health care or any kind of reform as long as this law is there. It's a huge obstacle right now. Conservatives do have ideas on that, and there are plenty of people in Washington, D.C. on both sides of the aisle who have alternatives to Obamacare that would, like I said, health savings accounts, because that would encourage competition, so you wouldn't have just a few health insurance companies. You would have actually more health insurance companies, more options, which from a free market perspective is always a good thing.
I have three questions. Let me get them. I'd like to present the three questions and then hear from you. First of all, it's my understanding that the individual mandate was a GOP or Republican idea. In Massachusetts, it was a Republican-led health care. Secondly, it's my understanding that currently we are paying for the folks that do not have insurance. It's hidden in our premiums for insurance. And I've heard something like $1,000 per family per year. And then thirdly, under our current quote-unquote system, we rank 31st in the world in infant mortality. So part of the reason for the health insurance seems to me to be that we have a lot of poor people in this country that are not covered, and from a higher good point of view, that's the overall thrust. So anyway, those are my questions.
Okay, so to the first point about individual mandate, yes, absolutely. That is not an idea that the Democrats have total ownership of, and unfortunately there have been a lot of Republicans, you mentioned Mitt Romney. Yes, there are, on both sides of the aisle, who have advanced the individual mandate idea, including the think tank in Washington and the Heritage Foundation, so on both sides of the aisle. To your point about one of the objectives of Obamacare being to address some of the areas where the United States can perform better, there's no disagreement. The United States has the potential, absolutely, to do better. And the existing system was not working for a lot of Americans with pre-existing conditions. But again, what I said is, at the beginning, this is a philosophic discussion. Do we want to have a government of limitless powers that can dictate that people have to make purchases? Or is there a free market solution? And to her point about the number of people who are uninsured in America, it's really important to look at that number, because in reality, we don't have very many people who are chronically uninsured. We always have this snapshot, people who are temporarily uninsured, but then will get insurance. 30% of the people who are uninsured qualify for some government program. They just haven't filled out the paperwork. So a lot of the problem, the stated problem, isn't, we're looking at different numbers. We should be looking at the true number of people who are currently uninsurable. That would be a more honest way to start the discussion.
When I was in between jobs, I had to spend $650 a month for catastrophic insurance because I had a few pre-existing conditions.
So the point there, a lot of people don't realize government is actually the problem there, because when government passed HIPAA laws in the 90s, that caused that problem. It caused health insurances were given the right then to drop people who had pre-existing. They didn't have to cover new people with pre-existing conditions or people who were in between jobs.
Who was making those decisions then? It wasn't Obama.
I'd like to make a comment. You made the statement that the United States was 31st in the world in infant mortality, but the way those statistics are collected, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. They're not collected in the same way, and if anybody has a choice of where they want their children to be born and to be able to survive, it's in the United States. It's not somewhere else. There aren't 30 other countries out there where you say, I would rather have them. Now, I don't want to get into an argument, but we can discuss this afterward. But we'll move on to the next. We have time for a couple more questions.
Hi, my question is if I tell the United States government or Obamacare that I can't afford it, then how are you going to make me pay for it?
Could you stand up?
If I tell the United States government or Obamacare that I can't afford to pay for it, how do you make me pay for it?
The same way they make you pay your taxes.
And if I'm on welfare, you're paying me to pay you.
If you're on welfare, you would qualify for a government
We're already paying for you.
Yeah, we don't,
program.
we don't pay if you're on welfare.
So if you're on welfare, you would just be in Medicaid.
Okay.
We're paying for you because we're working.
Okay, one more, last question now. Is this working?
I'm surprised that we haven't heard one discussion not about politics. This is a political power grab. That's what this is. Imagine yourself with a panel of 15 people being able to sit in Washington, D.C. and control 15% of the gross domestic product of the United States. Every 2, 4, and 6-year political cycle, you can promise a goodie. You can put fear in people's hearts. You can create a new third rail of politics like they've done with Social Security. And that's what this is all about. Don't forget it. It's a win-win situation. We win by having control, and we will be establishing all of these bureaucracies. Many of these bureaucracies. Why aren't we talking about the political aspects of this and the power grab that it is?
Okay, that's a fair question, but that wasn't our topic for tonight. The topic was to try to explain what Obamacare has done and what Obamacare is continuing to do. Obviously, Obamacare is an overreach on the part of government with the intent to take over 1/6 of the economy, and in everywhere else where it's gone into place, it's never been able to be removed. And the United States currently has the best health care system in the whole world, and we have it because we have freedom to implement things. So,
We were talking earlier about this was a philosophical discussion, and that's why I brought up a little philosophy.
okay. I'd like to, if you would, give a hand to Shonda Wary for her presentation tonight. And I'd like to just close with a couple of remarks. Number one, as parents, we have taught our children not to take candy from strangers. The reason we did that is because while the candy is very enticing, what comes after the candy is not. Obamacare puts out some goodies out in front to kind of pull us in, but then what comes after that is not what we want. So we need to be careful of that. I want to announce our next meeting will be April 10th